This is the second part of the lecture on personality that is given on February 9th. The second part talks about humanistic theory. Now, if you remember our discussion on the perspectives, humanistic theory is all about achieving your ultimate potential. Um, and Maslow was really the first one to really develop an idea about how achieving our potential would allow us to become uh, a better person, but also would be a demonstration of what kind of person we are, too. From the motivation unit, you may remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with self actualization at the top. And self actualization is the need that is met after all the physical and physiological and emotional needs are met. This is the one where we try to achieve our ultimate self potential. Maslow believed that additionally to self actualization, we were also looking to obtain self transcendence, which is the striving for identity and meaning and ultimate purpose in life. And what we did to achieve our potential, self actualization, and what we did to achieve our understanding of our purpose and our identity beyond ourself uh, demonstrated a lot about who we were as individuals. Along with Maslow, we also have Carl Rogers. Carl Rogers developed an idea called a person centered perspective. And he said that basically all people are basically good and endowed with self actualizing tendencies. But we also need to be in an environment that uh, promotes growth. He said that there are three things that really define that environment for growth. One is genuineness. He said that when people are genuine with you and you are genuine with others, they're open with your feelings and they're transparent and self disclosing. He also said that people in your environment needed to have ultimate acceptance, which he called unconditional positive regard. Now, unconditional positive regard is basically the idea that we accept a person for who they are despite their failings, despite their limitations. Uh, and this allows us to open up to our worst feelings, our worst fears, and to still be accepted uh, and to still have strong relationships. And then finally, he also said that we need to have empathy, so we can share and mirror each other's feelings and reflect on that. When we do listen with empathy, he said, it's one of those forces that can really promote change. Ultimately, Carl Rogers was really trying to develop an idea about the self concept, which is all our thoughts and feelings about ourselves to answer the question, who am I? Now, to try to measure how much the personality was being affected, Carl Rogers would carry out a series of questions to his clients to see whether or not their a person's ideal self reflected their ultimate self image, meaning that did the person in the way that the person viewed themselves reflect how the person wanted to be at their ultimate potential, self actualization. And he said that if they do, if your ideal self does match your ultimate self image, then he said that you are a fully functioning individual. And there were three different characteristics that we find about fully functioning individuals. One is that they're open to experience and they're open to new emotions. This allows people to go into things with an open mind. Two, they are often creative and open to risk taking. By putting themselves out there, by developing new ideas, this showed that they're at the ultimate peak of what they could be as a person. And then finally, satisfaction. If a person didn't have satisfaction within their life, then they needed to do something to improve their life to obtain that satisfaction. Finally, we finish with trait and social cognitive theories. Trait-based theories use something called factor analysis. Factor analysis is a type of measurement technique in which the assessment, in this case a personality test, looks at all the different answers that an individual gave and combines them together to create some sort of set of results. So rather than just seeing if someone is right or wrong, factor analysis really looks at the answers that are given and combines them together to understand what is this person saying about themselves. For trait-based assessments, factor analysis is used to create personality inventories. And what personality inventories are a set of ratings that are given to various different personality characteristics. Factor analysis is used in this way because the assessment will evaluate the answers that a person gives on that assessment to develop the rating for each of their personality inventories. Probably the most famous trait-based personality test is called the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. This is not one that we're going to be doing in class. It's 607 true-false questions, and it's primarily used to diagnose mental illness. Each of the inventories in the MMPI reflects different aspects about a person's mental and emotional health, like emotional stability, depression, anxiety, etc. But for one, just looking at characteristics about who the person is as an individual is the Big Five. And we covered the Big Five in class already. But again, remember the acronyms of OCEAN or CANOE, and that will help you with the 5 cardinal traits that make up those Big Five. And we can remember that a canoe sails on the ocean. Finally, we get to social cognitive theories. And the social cognitive theories were primarily developed by Albert Bandura, the same guy who did the Bobo doll experiment. And his primary idea was that our personality is a combination of 3 distinct sets of characteristics. And each of these characteristics influences one another in an idea that he called reciprocal determinism. In reciprocal determinism, a person is shown to have 3 distinct sets of things that make up who they are. One is their behavior. Behavior can be things like their actions, their expressions, their verbalizations, etc. The second is their environment, and their environment can be like their culture, their family, where they live, social connections. And then finally, we have the cognitive or person side of it, and that is things like their temperament and their thoughts and their preferences and intelligence. And each one of these things influences the other. So, for example, when a person carries out a certain action, it's because they're being influenced by parts of their environment, maybe other people or maybe where they live, and also by their cognitive and personal side, which is their thoughts and their preferences and their temperament. And if we look at it from the personal cognitive side, when a person has a certain thought, it could be because of their environment and also because of their own behaviors. And when we look at a person's environment, it is influenced by how they think, what they prefer, what their personality or temperament is like, and then also their actions. These all influence one another to make us who we are. Ultimately, this takes us down to what is personality. And personality really looks at the idea of self, where we're trying to identify what type of individual we are. We want to understand our ultimate purpose, our ultimate meaning in life, and that is very much reflected in what kind of individual we are. Some psychologists believe that it's possible that we have many possible selves, and that each one of our actions, our thoughts, how we go about our life, our environment, can ultimately change that potential for our possible self. So everything you do can ultimately down the road create a different version of your possible self. We also get something like the spotlight effect. The spotlight effect says that people are often really concerned about how other people view them. They're concerned that when they look a certain way or act a certain way, that other people are going to view them in one way or another. But here's the thing about the spotlight effect. Everybody has their own spotlight. So while one person is wondering how everybody else is viewing them, all those other people are also wondering how you are viewing them. And ultimately, if we stop focusing on the idea of how are other people going to view me and how to just improve ourselves, then ultimately we're going to have the best chance of success when it comes to improving two distinct things. One is your self-esteem, which is the ultimate reflection of your overall confidence levels. And the second is your self-efficacy. And that's whether or not you think you're competent at different things that you do, whether you think that what you do is good enough, and what you think is not just good enough, but also ultimately you are successful and at the things that you try to do. And this ends our part of the lecture.